Interviewing some of the biggest names in the sport of hockey and leaving it all on the ice. It's time for the No Holden Back Podcast. Here is your host, Ben Holden.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into the Sin Bin. It's the No Holden Back Podcast. Ben Holden. Darren Haydar has been kind enough to join me, and Darren's in just about every Hall of Fame you could be in. He's not just a Hall of Fame player, but he is a Hall of Fame guy. Darren, it's been 10 years, man. I really appreciate you doing this. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on with you. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. And you've aged really well, my friend. You look the same as I remember you in Cleveland, man. You've had a lot of things in your life, obviously, that have changed, and we'll talk about that. But I guess first and foremost, what's the latest and greatest in your life? What's daily life for you now that you've been retired for a few years?
I've got many ways I can go with that, but I've got a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So I'm, on the outside, I might appear to be still youthful, but my kids are putting a toll on me, and I'm having a great time with them. They're a blast. To be honest with you, I took them on the ice this morning, so trying to get them out, get some exercise, and been fortunate to be able to get the ice here in town. And it's not cheap these days, but just doing that. And then from a career standpoint, I moved on to real estate, and then also doing youth development and working with a Bantam hockey team as well.
That's terrific, man. The next Darren Haydar coming out of Milton, Ontario, or what, man?
We do have some good players in town, and a lot of them do leave to go to the GTHL, so the Greater Toronto League.
Yep.
But still within town and within the community, we've got some pretty good hockey players.
I can say that you know me well enough. I know you remember I'm a Timmy's nut, and I remember I've been to the Milton Timmy's. Remember we stopped one time. We were going to Toronto, and Quinny said, "Stop the bus." And we pulled out and let you off. So that was cool, man. You remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
We're for me, playing in Toronto and Hamilton, it's always nice where I was able to come home for dinner and then head back to the rink. Hamilton's 20-25 minutes to the rink, and Toronto about 40 minutes. So it's I was pretty fortunate that way to have family come and watch while I was playing.
Well, like you did in a lot of barns in junior and college and in pro, I remember you lighting it up in both those buildings a lot of times when the year we spent together in Cleveland. We'll get into that, but obviously, I mean, congratulations on going to the Hall of Fame, man. What an honor. I watched your speech earlier today, man, the clip that I found. And again, man, nothing's changed. You're still the same genuine, grateful, humble guy you are. What does that mean to be a part of that group now, Darren?
To be honest with you, I get goosebumps when you say that. It's as hockey players, we don't sign up for individual awards and or recognition. And to me, that's a credit to all the coaches, teammates that I've played with. I was fortunate to be on some good teams and fortunate to be, early on, learn from a lot of great players within the league, how to be a professional, and then hopefully, the younger players that I played with feel that I was able to pass that on to them. Like I said, I never signed up to play hockey for individual awards. And I think early in my career, one of the things that I was always taught was individual success comes with team success. So I've always approached it that way. I think my parents instilled that in me as well. So, and even on individual goals, I love seeing my teammates celebrate. So for me, setting a teammate up to score a goal was equally as rewarding for me as scoring my own goal.
Yeah, I wrote this down, so bear with me. So a quote you said, for those that haven't seen it, you remember the players that you win with, not so much the players you lose with. And that was a message that you got from Todd Richards now with the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was obviously incredible impactful on you. And that's something it sounds like you still carry with you today.
Absolutely. I think it's lost in a lot of sport, not just hockey. I think hockey's more of a team environment than, even baseball and football and basketball. I think there's a lot of self-advertising within some of those sports. And I know some hockey players are that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that, what's everyone look for when they're trying to pick a team in hockey? We know hockey. They look for winners. And if you win, most likely you're going to continue on or move up. So for me, that's something I've always I learned from early in my pro career, but I also learned in junior as well.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of go back a little bit to, the roots, man. Like was your dad a coach for you? Did you have family that coached? I know you played with one of your brothers at one point, but take me back to what you first remember about first getting on the ice and playing the game of hockey.
Got older brothers, learned a ton from them. It reminds me of my own kids right now. The youngest is trying to just fit in with the older guys, and at some point he's going to want to be better than them. So for me, I had older brothers who pushed me, and probably I deserved every punch and licking I took from them. But, my dad's from Africa. My dad's from Tanzania. So he, to this day, cannot skate. The things that he instilled in me were the things that we've been talking about already, or being a good teammate and being, the best you can be, but not knowing anything about hockey. And I think that's the one thing that people, especially in our area, as parents, need to recognize. You can push your kid at the age of 6 through 8 through 10, but at some day they're going to come back and, I don't want to say hate the game of hockey, but they're going to be sick of the game of hockey. I think having a parent who wasn't overly knowledgeable at that time for me growing up was it was great. They pushed me the right way. They pushed me to, like I said, to be the best me I could be. But, I wasn't getting every time I came home, you should have done this or you should have done that. So I think, I give a lot of credit to my parents on how we were raised from that standpoint, because I know some kids' experiences through hockey are totally different, where, they would get home and they'd get, lashed out at by their parents. And for me, it wasn't that way. Don't quit. Play till the end of the whistle, no matter whether you're winning or losing. And, those are the lessons that I remember from my parents.
That's awesome. I can speak to that 100% to your point. I don't know if you remember my little son. He was little back then, and he used to come out with us every now and then. And excuse me. And so he played from when he was 3 to 13, and he tried out for the varsity team. He was in 8th grade. Didn't make it. He was one of the last 2 kids cut. He got in my truck that day, and he goes, "Dad, I don't want to play anymore." And I said, "Well, don't let it beat you down." And we talked it out. And the point of the story is, I said, "Luke, if you don't want to play, don't play it, because it's my passion." I said, "Find your own path." And he started playing lacrosse. And now he's hopefully going to play in college in the spring. So I really respect that, Darren, like the way your parents raised you. And that's just something, it probably had something to do with me of being around the game the way I was, at the level I was, and still am with guys like yourself, man, because you're a great example of that. So your career, let's get into that a little bit. Starting junior, tell me about the Milton Merchants. Who are some guys that were on those squads with you, man? You had 243 points, man, in basically 2 years. So who are some of the guys you played with in junior?
Well, my brother Jeff was the captain of the team.
Okay.
The owner of our team, Brad Grant, wanted to win, and he would bring in players he would find them. When I say he wanted a championship caliber team, he brought in players if he didn't think we had enough. He would go out. We got Rydas Ivanins. I don't know if you remember that name from.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
So he played for Calgary, LA. So he was brought in mid-season one year. He was a big boy. Made it to the NHL as a little bit of a fighter, but he made it. So I played with him in Milwaukee. So he would bring in those type of players. So it started with ownership and coaching. Marty Williamson, who coached the Barrie Colts, Greg Kerrigan was the GM. They really taught me what it takes to be, a high level hockey player. So I appreciated that. From player standpoint, we had a few. Matt Van Arco went to Notre Dame. We boarded a few players during my time, and we had a guy named Travis Reagan who was drafted, I think 5th overall to the OHL draft. He lived with us. So I learned both sides of it, the OHL draft and the NCAA, with Matt Van Arco being probably the biggest blue chip prospect that year within our loop in Milton. But playing in Milton, after all that, I learned both sides. NCAA schools calling our house every night, speaking to Matt, which pushed me. That pushed me because I was a year younger. And at that time, it was my first year. And seeing him get all that recognition and getting those opportunities only fueled me to want those same type of opportunities when it came time for me to choose. I was smaller at the time. I knew my route, my path was most likely going to be going NCAA. And I'm thankful I chose that way. I truly believe it. I enjoyed my 4 years. I got a degree, business degree out of it. Even while I was in university, I didn't know hockey was going to turn into a professional opportunity. You just don't know if you're not, either a blue chip prospect or a first round draft pick. But the team in Milton, we went to the Royal Bank Cup, and we lost to the eventual winners in South Surrey, who, again, it showed what it took to be not only a great team, but great players. They were on the ice 5-6 days a week. Whereas in Milton back then, I think we had 1-2 practices a week mixed with our 2 games a week. So it was just that extra day, 5-6 days a week. They almost treated it as it was NCAA hockey and or pro hockey. The amount that they were on the ice and their skating was one step above where we were.
So it sounds like then you didn't have much intention then of trying to play major junior. You felt you had to go college, or where'd you stand on that, Darren?
To be honest with you, the first year, I love golf. The first year I played, I wasn't sure, being as small as I wasn't sure that a scholarship was going to come about. I had 2 friends who went to Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania on golf scholarships, and my golf swing is terrible, but I score well.
I don't believe that.
I score well, but my swing is terrible. So
I've seen those hands.
Hey, and around the green, I'm pretty good, but I think I got down to 4 handicap, but I'm nowhere near that now that I have 3 kids, and I just love to get out and play. But that when my first year junior, I was hoping just as much that maybe golf was an option for schooling as well.
Huh.
And then by the end of my first year, I started to get a few phone calls from NCAA schools. I skated with Bert Templeton and the Barrie Colts for a couple private sessions just to see whether that would have been an option.
Okay. And
for me, if I had to say it, I had no doubt that NCAA was the route I was heading for. It would have taken even the Barrie Colts to let me know I was being on a first or second line and that I was going to be one of their projects, because you never know, at that time, if I was 17, 18, that would have meant I maybe had 2 years of hockey left. And then at that time, was I ready to turn pro? I'm going to say I wasn't. Mm-hmm. So for me, the right path, and, my parents, I don't want to say they pushed me, but they guided me to NCAA, and I was getting a degree out of it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Matt Van Arkel, your former teammate. So what was it like for you? Was your phone ringing off the hook like his the next year, or how did that work for you?
For me, it all happened quick. I don't know. For him, it seemed like it was going all year. Maybe that's because I was a year younger and I wasn't, it wasn't happening for me. But I remember picking up the phone multiple times where it was, oh, this is so-and-so from, Michigan or from Michigan State or from everywhere. So for me, when it happened for me, I did have some options. Michigan called, Michigan State called. But the one thing for me was I was very close to breaking a couple junior records. And I ended up UNH, my visit just happened to work out perfectly, where I didn't have to miss any games. And I loved it. They were losing 3 of their top 4 scores. I knew there was an opportunity for me to jump in right away. And it didn't pan out where I started on the first line or second line. That I had to work for everything I was given there. We had Matt Jejuzitsky, who was probably the blue chip prospect, going into UNH. So for me, choosing University of New Hampshire, I can't second guess that in any way. I loved my time there. Got a degree, made many friendships, and it gave me the ability to be drafted and then play professional hockey. So I absolutely enjoyed my time there.
Yeah. So that's where you met Jason Krog, right?
He was a senior I was a freshman. He won the Hobey Baker that year.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember the year you left us, man. Every time we played you guys, it was for both you guys, man. And Brett Sterling was on that team, I want to say. And I always hoped that we could sign him. I love the way we played, man. But so the friendship with Jason. So talk us through that and how did it start and, all the things that you guys did. I mean, just remarkable the way you guys, the chemistry you had, man, was incredible, Darren.
Well, he's a really quiet guy until he's got to feel comfortable, I think, with his situation. But when I went to University of New Hampshire, he was a senior and he's in great shape. He works hard every single day. Great leader, not vocal, but by his actions, he's a pro. And he was a pro in college, and I learned a lot from those upperclassmen when I was a freshman. And I think it took about 4 or 5 games for me to be put on the same line as Jason at school. And from there, we just, when I say we bonded, we had great chemistry on the ice. And we had Mike Souza, who's now the coach at University of New Hampshire, was our other line mate. And for me, those guys were older, and I looked up to them. I looked up to all the leaders we had at school, and we were fortunate. We went to the Frozen Four and lost in double overtime to Maine that year. And from there, it just kind of set the stage of once you get that far, you want to taste it again.
Yeah, what a career, man! 4 years. You're a 4-year guy. I said to TJ Hensick, who was your teammate, part of our group for part of 1 year. And when they sent him back from Colorado, and I said to TJ, I said, and yourself included in this, when I talk to college players, and we go in to do a game now, Darren, there's certain guys that I'm real close with. You know how it is, and you can really have a conversation with them. And, we guard the stuff. We're not going to put it out. You know how it is. We're not going to put it out on the air. There's certain things. But a lot of times I say to these guys, I always remember Hensick and Porter and Matt Hunwick, guys I know and know of if you don't know them. And they're like, why would I leave? I mean, was that your mindset? Was it like, hey, it's one time, 4 years of college, I'm not going anywhere unless I'm, going to the show, right? Which doesn't happen for a lot of guys.
Well, I don't think it happens for a lot of guys, but I think you've got it right. It's that experience of going to school. If you're going to leave early, you better be ready to be in that situation. And for myself, when I say there was no doubt, again, I was smaller. I was at a time when the NHL was still in its big man stage.
Yeah.
I was still growing into myself in terms of, becoming as strong as possible to get ready for the pro game. And, at no time did I feel like, okay, I'm close to leaving school. I know many, many players did, but and some of those names you mentioned, for me, going back to UNH my senior year, I felt like we had a chance to win it all. We lost in Frozen Four to Maine again in the semis, but you know what? We felt like we had their number all year. We won Hockey East. So for me, there was never that doubt, but I can see where that attraction for some of these guys is. But I wanted my degree. Would I go back and finish my degree if I left early? And for me, Nashville is, they like to keep their players polished before they're going to give them their opportunity, especially at that time.
Yeah.
So,
and that you've done this before. That leads me right where I was going next. It's not your first rodeo, I know. You get drafted by Did I read this? I read this right earlier. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know you will. You were on a pontoon when you found out you got drafted by Nashville in the 9th round.
I actually thought the draft was over and thought I wasn't taken. So we did. We were at the cottage. We went out on the pontoon boat, and I got a phone call. I think I got a phone call from that when we got back from being on the pontoon boat that I was selected by Nashville. And then we came back from the cottage the next morning, and then I got a phone call from Nashville. So that's and at that time, being a college player, not necessarily a great thing to be drafted late, that especially that late. You have no leverage as a college player. So right. For me, I'm thankful to be drafted. It's obviously a great accomplishment. now that I look back at it, it's, that absolutely. But at the time, having the ability to have different options may have financially helped me out more than I probably know. But from a career path, I'm thankful to be drafted by Nashville. I think they do a great job with their drafting. We had a great teams in Milwaukee, and I don't want to say great teams. We had great people. They brought in like my first couple of years. I played with Dan Hamus. He's one of the best people that I know within the game by far. So being surrounded by players like that and people like that, I think Nashville, they did a very good job. They weren't just picking based on skill. They're, picking based on the type of person. And I think Dave Poyle said that recently when they selected me. It was, they were looking for good people at the time that they were drafting. And you know what? I give him credit for doing that, because now I don't think all organizations do their homework when they're drafting. And I think they missed the boat on, for them, it's an investment. They should be doing their homework. They should be, asking questions and figuring out some of these kids that they're taking.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, man. So you then embark on what would end up being 11 years in the American Hockey League, 780 games, 788 points, 14th all time in the American Hockey League. And before we get into that, I want to go back. I don't know if you remember this or not, but this always stuck with me, Darren. It was one of the first times you and I met. Camp had broke. They sent you down. We're doing an interview and for the team, and I said, man, you got to be thrilled to be here. And you looked at me and you're like, I'm not thrilled to be here. I didn't get it yet. You surprised I remember that?
Well, you know what? I've been, when I say I've been vocal about that, I do not, and I know a lot of people are, I don't want to bad talk anybody.
No, I know that.
That situation, they could have been a little bit more forthcoming with the way that they dealt with me. And, and even in camp that year, we played the burgundy and white game in Colorado. And I set up Matt Hendricks for the only goal of the game. And then I get called in and I didn't do enough. Yeah. And, I wasn't expecting, when I say I wasn't expecting, I did get injured right before training camp. I hurt my hamstring and I knew I had a little bit of an uphill battle going in. But when I first signed, they told me they were going to give me every opportunity to make the team. And I don't want to say make the team, but maybe be one of the call-ups. Yeah. If I take it one step further, I was the 9th forward called up that year. And to me, that just situation doesn't sit well with me, the way that it all went down. I have no bitter or not holding bitter feelings or anything towards it. I had a great time. I thought we had I know we didn't do as well we would have liked in Cleveland. Yeah. If we would have had all of our pieces at the same time that were on that team throughout the year, I think we could have had a good year. But at the same time, just on a personal level, I signed with Colorado thinking that I was going to be given an opportunity. And then to get 2 minutes and whatever seconds I got, that's, as a player and doing what I had done to earn that opportunity. And I don't want to say in past years, but, even in the exhibit, that game, I felt like I earned a little more than, what I was given. So I just felt lied to in that situation. Yeah, no. And I get that. And where I'm coming from, right? I didn't bring absolutely.
it up.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I'm like, I just come from doing 4 years of college games and I'm like, crap, I'm one step from the NHL, man. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? I figured it out quick there, and I did. So I understood what you meant later. So let's go to Milwaukee. First year, 02-03, you put up 75 and 75. No big deal. Just, typical Darren Haydar year, a point-a-game guy. What do you remember from that first year with that group in Milwaukee as your first year in the American League as a pro?
Well, we had some quite accomplished players that were playing. Dominic Pittis was there at the start. He ended up getting hurt early on. Cameron Mann. If I look, Brad Tiley. We had Curtis Murphy. Or no, he wasn't there. He was there the next year because he beat us when he was with Houston.
Was Hamhuis with you that year?
He was with me that year,
Yep.
but he was a rookie with me that year.
Yep.
Andrew Hutchinson,
Hutch.
Adam Hall were both. Adam
Yep.
Hall only was there for 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
But Brian Finley, Greg Klassen. So for me, it was, our group got along extremely well. We lost to Houston. They ended up winning the Calder Cup. But as a group, we grew together. And you know what? It felt like an extension of college. We all did things together. Milwaukee's a great city for that. We all lived downtown. We were within minutes from each other. And it really had an NCAA feeling towards the team, and everybody was together. That's, I think, why we ended up being successful in year 2 and winning the Calder Cup, was because of the environment and because of the type of people that Dave Poyle and Nashville drafted.
Yeah. Your first of 2, 03-04 in that season. So you lose to Houston, as you say. That was obviously motivation. What else clicked in that year that you guys lifted the cup in 03-04?
Again, I think they put together – it's a puzzle. And I think that, between Ray Shiro and Dave Poyle, they put together the right pieces. Even in the minors, you need to have guys that are going to be – there's going to be injuries at the NHL level. But you also need to have veterans at the American League level. And then you have your guys that bounce up and down. And I thought between Wyatt Smith, Vern Fiddler, Greg Klassen in that year up front, and then a number of guys on the back end that were going up and down, mixed in with guys like Curtis Murphy and Brad Tiley that were older, Ray Schultz that were older. I just think that all the pieces were, they aligned really well for our team.
And I do need to mention and throw out, do you have the bobblehead near you there on your desk by any chance I gave you?
Which one? I've got like 4 of them. And actually,
the one from Milwaukee they gave you when they retired your jersey earlier this year, man.
I do have one here. It's missing. My kid dropped it the other day. Oh, it's not going to show because of my.
Put it in front of yourself. There you go. There it is. Nice. I mean,
he's missing a hand.
That's right. One-handed Darren Haydar. And I know this too. I mean, when you start, playing, you don't think about the Hall of Fame. You don't think about that. You're just playing, man. You love the game. You want to play at the highest level. What was that whole experience going back there in March when you did that, man? That had to have been awesome.
It was amazing. I got to share it with my parents, my oldest brother, John, who didn't get to see me play when I was playing. So it was it was amazing. It's again, like you said, and I've said all along, is you don't play for that type of recognition. Yeah. And it's a credit to the teams that I played on, and to, obviously I wanted to be the best I could be and to help our team win. But it just, to me, it brings back all the memories of the work that you put in day to day to get to that level, and to be able to, at the end of the day, win and host the trophy together. And it's like it all comes together. It obviously such a great and rewarding feeling.
So as is life in the minors, sometimes you play 4 years in Milwaukee and then you go to Chicago. That had to have been tough to leave doing what you did there. You got your start there. You established those friendships, those relationships. You meet a guy like Todd Richards, who we talked about earlier, who, kind of is still impacting your life with that comment and the way of thinking. How difficult was that when you left?
Obviously, I knew it was time to leave. Nashville knew it was time for me to move on. I get the comment from Dave Poyle that maybe they misevaluated me from the start. So it's great to hear, but obviously I'm looking for the opportunity, and it's going to Chicago. I knew I was going to an organization that wanted to win.
Yeah.
And coming from Milwaukee, being on some good teams there, it was just time for me to move on. I signed with Atlanta, hoping for an opportunity, and I knew if I put together a good season that, maybe the door would open up the following year. But being on, a lot of it, the politics side of it, what type of contract are you on and such? Do you fit in with the group? I knew that I was going to have to show myself to a new organization and new management who are going to probably have more eyes on me that year than they did while I was with with Nashville, Milwaukee, to try and get that opportunity.
Yeah.
But I knew going to an organization like Chicago, if it didn't work out in Atlanta at the time, was going to be great. And then I found out that Jason, had signed there, a couple days later. So for me, it was, if we were going to be together, that'd be great. We have a great opportunity to win. And, I think that's, as a player, that's all you want to know is, okay,
right,
are they going to do what it takes to give us a chance to win?
Well, you go down there and I know somewhere in your house is the puck. 23 games you played in the show, not the numbers you want to hear. You scored your only goal of your career. You could have picked a tougher guy to score on, man. You only scored on Brodeur, Darren. What do you remember the play? I know you do. Tell me about it when you scored on October 13th that year.
Absolutely. Well, Brett Sterling, myself, and Brian Little were aligned. So, Coach called us the what do you call us? The kid line or something along those lines. Little did he know that at the time I think I was 28. So whatever I was not as young, nearly as young as Sterling and Brian Little. But so Sterling cleared it out to Brian Little in the neutral zone, and we went 2-on-2, and Brian Little cut in front of the D-man, and I shot it through a little bit of a screen, and it went top locker. I'm thankful, but I think Brodeur gave me one on that one. And I shot it. I shot in a spot where if you gave me 100 shots, I might have shot high blocker 2 or 3 times. It's not an area that I typically shoot, but it was the lane that I was given. So
that's cool, man. That's how did that? I mean, the feeling of doing that, and just you played an NHL game. I mean, millions of people never get that chance to play the great sport. What was that like, man? After that game, when you did that?
Such a great sense of accomplishment, but and I don't want to sound the wrong way here, but I thought I was going to get 100 more. So for me, it was okay. Opportunity and all of that. Take that aside. When I say I wasn't a young guy, but I wasn't an old guy. I thought that I was going to have plenty of more opportunities to be able to finally show that I belonged and get more opportunity to do so. So it's obviously the sense of accomplishment. I look back at it now. Nobody can take that away from you. And obviously thankful for the little opportunity I was given, but how much work goes into it, how much work my parents have, sacrifices that they've made, my brothers. So for me, it all comes to a head in just how many emotions and thoughts go into it.
Well, the next 07-08, you win another cup. Talk to us a little bit, or talk to me a little bit about the makeup of that group. You and Jason, Sterling was with you guys too, right? And who else was a part of that group that you guys won a cup with there in 2008 in Chicago?
Well, we did. We had Andre Pavlik was our goalie.
Yep.
Back end. We had some older guys. Nathan Oystrick was our kind of the prodigy of Atlanta at the time. I think him and Boris Valabik. Then up front we had, myself, Krog, Sterling, Brian Little. We had in the Black Ace squad that we had that year was probably good enough to be on any other team's, first, second line as well. We, that whole team, we had such a good team. That our whatever line you want to call them of Colin Stewart, Andre DeVoe, and Kevin Dole played such a great, puck possession game. Another older guy, we had Steve Martins, who was one of the Black Aces and in and out. And, that team was just, again, it all comes together. It's having all the right pieces to play a deep playoff run. And I give Chevy and Johnny Anderson and staff, I give them a lot of credit because, it's not hard to win. I know it's the minors, but there's different options of guys being called up and injuries, obviously. So I think it might be, I don't want to say it's harder to win at the minor league level, but you've got more variables that could happen.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. Before we move on from Chicago, your wife, Sarah, now your wife, you met her in Chicago. For those that don't know, she battled and got through cancer in her throat. But you and I talked about that a couple times when we were together in Cleveland, and a remarkable story. I'm glad, she made it through. Walk us through that, how you guys met, and I guess, kind of close that out about how she is today.
Absolutely. So we met in Milwaukee when we were in the playoffs my last year with Milwaukee. And
Okay.
so she was in Milwaukee School of Engineering in the nursing program. And after that year, I signed with Atlanta and ended up in Chicago. And
Yeah.
so that first year, everything was fine. And then early in the second year, she had seemed to be laryngitis, and she went and got it checked out a few times. And Don Levin, the owner of Chicago, was like, "You need to really go get this checked." I give him a lot of credit because he pushed her to go, multiple times, and then she went and got checked. Thought it was vocal polyps, and then they went in to remove, what they thought were them, and found out it was cancer. So that was obviously, tough to hear when she was only 23, 24 at the time.
Yeah.
That she had cancer. And that was right at the start of playoffs. And I give, Buddy Myers and Don Levin a lot of credit. They did surgery. They thought they removed it all. In the playoffs, the ownership, basically made Chicago's a family. They treat everything as if, the Chicago Wolves are a family, every member of the team and organization. So I love the way that they do that. Especially for our situation, it was pretty tough. And at the end of that year, we win the Calder Cup, and Buddy Myers presented Sarah with the game puck from the final game, which I thought was very classy. And after Sarah going through everything she did that year, little did we know that was the first step. She later on was, diagnosed with stage 4, where it had spread a little bit, and still some uphill battles. And now she's been cancer free for over 10 years. She lives with a tracheostomy, but I think that's it's a sacrifice that, for life and for everything. She's doing well and cancer free at this point in time.
That's great to hear, Darren. Really is. And I'm gonna go to your situation right from there. How much has that, going through that, the two of you and your families, how much did that help you, and does it help you now being diagnosed with MS? For those that don't know, I'm sure most do, that are in the hockey circles in 2011. How much has that, helped you guys out to get through what you're going through?
When I say we joke, we talk about, we've been through more than, most marriages go through in a lifetime. And in that period, it was within a 3-year period of, for us, me being diagnosed with MS, what was that going to hold for my immediate, short-term, long-term future? What am I still going to have to go through? So yeah, we definitely go through that, but I think it helped me out a ton going through Sarah's situation. And at the end of the day, it made me realize hockey's just a game, and there's more to life than that. But it is my passion, and she loves the game as well. And through hockey, she was able to go to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and be treated. So through the game of hockey, it helped. I don't want to say expedite, but it helped us in our treatment plans and moving forward from both of our diagnoses.
Yeah. And a couple more things on your situation. So when you were playing, was that an effect on you when you played, and how are you now with what you're dealing with the MS?
Did it affect me as I was playing? I think it did on 3-and-3s and those types of situations. I just became a little bit more tired. It took me a little longer to recover.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, did it affect me? I don't think it affected me on a day-to-day basis. It definitely did. I'm sure make my downward trend probably a little quicker than I would have liked, but I was fortunate to still continue to play for a few more years after, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm doing great. I haven't had any episodes in the last, I want to say 2 years. I actually did a stem cell treatment in Panama a few years ago.
Wow.
And I'm taking one day at a time. I've got 3 young kids, so I want to care for them and be in as good of shape to be able to do so for as long as possible.
That's awesome, Darren. Here's to you, man. That's just again, for people that don't know this guy, man, he is one of the most positive people I've ever met in any sport I've ever worked in, man. You just brim with positivity, Darren. I love it. And so just to put a bow on that, so you mentioned how, Don Levin, who, by the way, puts on the best indoor show of any hockey game I've ever been to in my life. They must spend $20,000 on fireworks. But all kidding aside, so you go through what you went through, what you just told us about, and you're part of that franchise again. So, I mean, it's without question the amount of gratitude and those things you have to have for the family, as you mentioned, that is in Chicago, has got to be through the roof, man. So was that a comfort in any way at the time when you were going through that, knowing the people that you were surrounded by in Chicago as you went through what you went through with Sarah?
Absolutely. I think it sounds weird, but I think I'm fortunate that both of those situations happened while we were with the Chicago organization. I think Don Levin goes over and above to make sure he's such a caring and genuine person that it definitely helped. It definitely helped for both Sarah and myself. And on top of me trying to be a positive person, I've couple coaches didn't appreciate it over the years because, and I don't want to say that they didn't appreciate it, but I like to have a good time. I like to smile.
Yeah.
I was essentially told from a coach that not wipe that smile off your face, but you look like you're having too much fun out there. And you know what? It's a game of hockey. I love to have fun. I love to, especially when you're winning, it makes it a lot easier. So obviously I try to be positive in everything because life is life, and you don't know what's going to come the next day. So for me, being positive is definitely a big thing that I carry with me.
Yeah, 100%. I respect the hell out of that, man, because I try to be the same way, and it's challenging. And, when you hear stories like yours and your wife's, it puts it in perspective, man, and even more than it already did in the 1 year I spent, or a few months we spent together on the same group. So let's move on. You go to Grand Rapids with Detroit. Was that a similar deal? Like you touched on the Colorado deal earlier. Was that kind of the same way? Like, you're thinking you're going to be first, second, third guy, whatever up, and you played 1 year there with the Griffins. How was that whole experience of playing that year in the Red Wings organization?
Well, at that time I was hopeful. I tried, obviously Nashville and Atlanta after Nashville. So if I say the logic going into it was Detroit's a skilled team and they play 3 lines that can contribute offensively to a team. Yeah. Guys like Yuri Hudler, and that's a spot that I could fill into. Yeah. When I was at that camp was when Sarah was going through treatment at Mayo Clinic, and I give Detroit, and Babcock a little bit of gratitude that they allowed me to go see her. When I say they sent me down, they gave me the opportunity of playing a couple extra exhibition games or going to visit her before reporting to Grand Rapids. They assured me no matter whether you get a hat trick in the next 2 games, you're still going to end up in Grand Rapids. Why don't you go visit her while she's in the hospital doing radiation, and then meet the team in Grand Rapids and start fresh from there. So I give them credit for that. That year, I don't want to put any blame on them that I wasn't called up. I think that year was just a tough year all around. Personally for me, we were away from each other. She was going through a lot. She wasn't, had a feeding tube in. she wasn't eating a lot and was losing a lot of weight. And for me, that was a very emotionally a tough year. So for getting called up, yeah, I was very disappointed. I wasn't, called up with that team, especially when, there's a stretch there where I felt like I was, back playing my game and being the regular Darren Haydar that can help contribute to a team. And they did have some injuries to be given that opportunity, but they called up Billy Leno and he took advantage of the opportunity that he was given. Maybe if he didn't, then, would I have been next? I have no idea. But, for a while there, I felt like I would have been able to, to jump in and would have loved that opportunity. But I can't look back at that situation and say that, they were unfair to me at all. That year was just very emotionally tough for me.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Let's shift to a brighter note, sort of. So I've kept this, man. I don't know if you can see that. You signed it. It was my first game in the American Hockey League, and we beat Roch 3-2.
Awesome.
You had 2 assists on the tying goal, and then you set up dupes on the winner in overtime, man. So I had a bunch of you guys sign that. I took it off in the living room, man. So this
awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm sentimental that way, Darren. Things like that mean a lot to me. Relationships, like you and I had talked in 10 years. I'd shoot you. Yeah, no problem, Benny. Whatever. I'll do whatever you want, man. Like that's the kind of shit I'm talking about, man. It's just cool, man. And that was a fun team, though. We talked about the Colorado stuff. So, like I said, on a brighter note, but about that group. What do you remember first and foremost about the 09-10 season with the Monsters?
There's many different things that I think about with that team, and I mentioned earlier, but with us that year, if Colorado didn't have the injuries that they had,
yep.
I like I said, I think I was the 9th forward called up from that team. Like that just shows how many injuries that they had. On the back end, I'm trying to think. I don't remember how many injuries, but I remember we had Tyson Berry for a short period of time. I remember we had who's the other defenseman that was up and down?
For Colorado, for us, or that went up and down with us?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of our D. We had, let me just look at this thing. I'll rattle some names off here. Let's see. Yeah. So we had on the back end, we had Wes O'Neill, Brett Skinner, Brian Fahey, Derek Peltier. We had Ryan Wilson. Ryan's the guy you were thinking of.
Yeah.
Because I think it was our home opener, and he dropped the mitts and beat the hell out of somebody, and he was gone, right?
he was gone. I think Brandon Yip was gone, and
who? Oh, Brandon. Yipper.
Tyson Berry was gone.
Yup, and we had that was it for D. Yeah. So Kevin, we had Monty.
That's right,
Monty. So Monty didn't go up either, but Ryan did.
No, right. But no, I thought we had up front. We had a very good forward group, and with all those injuries, it's tough to compete at the American League level. And I wish we had a full year of having all those guys there, because I think we could have rivaled any team that year with that group that we had. And obviously with all the injuries, it didn't work out our way, but I enjoyed it there. I thought we had a great group. I think we also had a couple injuries up front on our team. Surdy, I think, was hurt for majority of the year.
Yeah. I talk about him a lot, Darren, in the sense that, I remember going, I was always on the bench at practice and, running the door for you guys. And I remember countless conversations with him, and just, you feel helpless, man. Yeah. I felt helpless for him. He just, with the concussion issues and, Of course, we had Wills too. We had veteran guys, you and Wills.
Yeah. Durno. We had
Durno, yeah.
So I liked my time there. Obviously, I wasn't happy to be there at the start. And obviously, once that sets in and you're going to be there, it kind of changes a little bit. But it is what it is. And obviously, I wish for more of an opportunity. That's obviously, I don't want to say I look back. I made some friends there. I was great time, but you look back on it, is that the one decision that, I look back on and I wish I would have changed? I don't know, maybe, but I met some great guys there. I had a great time, and I just wish we didn't have as many, variables that we had to deal with to try and give ourselves a chance to win.
Yeah. How did you deal with all that throughout the years when you had those moments, man? Because a lot of people would have walked, Darren, and you didn't, man. And I think anyone that knows you knows, tips their hat, man. How did you deal with all that mentally?
Well, I always look at control the things you can control, and obviously that's not something you can control. So the guys who aren't able to deal with it wears on them, and you can tell. And then their mannerisms, their the level of output that they give, and you can just tell that it changes them. For me, it's control what you can control, work hard, and for me, I at no point did I ever think I was above anybody in the American Hockey League. And that's one thing that I think some guys that come down, they think they're better than everyone else, and then they don't do as well because they end up trying too much and trying to do too many things. And for me, at the end of the day, if you're winning and it just makes it fun to win. And if you've got that mentality, and I think, when I say I came from some winning teams, it's a lot more fun when you win. So let's put that effort in to win on when I say a nightly basis, it's just, it makes a lot of those negative things go away.
Good advice. You finish out in the American League 3 years with Chicago, and then you head overseas. I want to hear about your last season in the American League and what are some highlights from that, and what do you take away from that last year you played with the Wolves there in 12-13?
Well, that year obviously I was diagnosed with MS. I knew that. Right. I would have loved to have stayed, but as a family, we wanted to experience a little bit of Europe and try that before I wasn't able to, or before hockey was going to be, when I say done, it was, I looked at that first year going to Munich was the ability, the team that they had, we were way better on paper than I think our team performed. Not only the way we performed, but I don't want to throw a coach under the bus or anything like that, but I thought there's different ways we could have been utilized as a team. We had John DeSalvatore that year. The team that we had on paper was pretty good team, and I think we could have done some more damage than we did. I think there was just a lot of uncertainty with the way that our team that year, I guess, roles weren't formed. By the end of the year, nobody knew who was who, and it's tough to win when players don't recognize am I an offensive guy? Am I supposed to be a shutdown guy? I think roles help a team. Guys who are willing to accept certain roles help. And in that year, I just felt like we were roll 4 in, roll 4 out, and I think that was a little bit of our downfall. We had we had Danny Richmond, Andy Wozniewski. We had some good players that year. Matt Smaby. So we had some really good players. It just, for whatever reason, didn't work out. And I loved my time in Munich. I loved going to Europe. I thought it was a great experience. Which that's why we went back the second year. And I know Zagreb didn't quite work out. Ended up in Austria. Yeah. Enjoyed our time there. It was fantastic. We ended up losing to Salzburg that year, and they picked us in playoffs. We had some injuries, and obviously they made the right decision over there. It's kind of, I think it was just different that the first 4 teams, the first team gets to pick who they play against, and then it goes down the board as to who plays who. Just something I'd never experienced before, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Because if you pick the wrong team, you could be in trouble.
Choose wisely.
Exactly.
So you told me offline, but let's put it out there. And so the last year you played professionally, you're getting paid, was 15-16, and you had some back issues. Was really kind of the end all be all. Was that fair to say?
Well, yeah, that last year, I wouldn't say it was actually from playing. When I got home after that season, I picked up my son out of the bathtub and just kind of rotated funny.
Ouch.
And that happened in probably the start of April, and it lasted until November or so that year. And I couldn't do anything.
Wow.
I had a couple discs impeding on the nerve, and it was extremely painful.
Ouch.
So it was tough. It was tough to deal with. I ended up signing in Oslo and Norway with Jason, and I was unable to go. I couldn't skate. I could barely get in and out of bed, and so that's when I decided to complete and finish my real estate courses.
There you go, man. I mean, the hell of a career. I mean, all-time leader in the history of the American League in points, goal, everything, man. Goals, assists. I could go on for 10 minutes with your resume, man. It's unbelievable, man. And, I love talking with you about all this stuff. And, I got a couple more things for you before we wrap. But you've given a lot of good pieces of advice, in my opinion. But if you could say something to some young guys that are, they're going to play in the American League and embark on a pro career, what are some things you would say to those guys as they enter the world of pro hockey? Because, as we all know, it's a completely different game when you go from college to pro, man. What would you say to those young players, Darren?
Don't take anything for granted. I think don't have a sense of entitlement. Don't take anything for granted. Work every single day. I think with the way the NHL is now, I don't want to say it doesn't matter whether you're drafted in the first round or fifth round. I think there's more opportunity for the later draft picks than there ever was. And a lot of it comes from hard work and giving everything you got on a daily basis, and showing coaches in the minors, if you have to be put in the minors first, that you know what it takes to win. And organizations will take notice. I think it's, for me, that's the way I tried to live and play when I was with Milwaukee and Nashville. Was, I was nobody's project. Nobody was going to give me a free lunch in any way, shape, or form. So I think these kids coming in now, don't go in expecting anything and work for everything.
Again, respect on that one, man. That's awesome. I want to ask you about playing for Canada in the Spengler Cup. Andy Murray, who I've gotten to know very well. I don't know if you ever crossed paths with Andy or not, but he's been at Western Michigan now since, I think, 2012 in the conference I've been doing games in, the NCHC. Love the guy. And he always talks about that, man. You don't hear much about that tournament, the Spengler Cup in the United States, but I know it is a massive deal in Canada. That had to mean a lot to you to play in that, Darren.
When I say it's the first and only time I was able to wear the Canadian jersey, you know what? The way that Hockey Canada treated us, and my family, to the history of that event, it was easily one of the most enjoyable hockey experiences of my career. People in Canada talk about that's a bucket list thing that they want to do, to go watch the Spengler Cup. The environment, the history of that building, it's, the wood, ceiling, the ceilings, and it was an experience like no other over Christmas and New Year's that, they did, it was like a horse sled ride for the families and wives. And it was the first year that we had our oldest son. He was 3 months old going to the Spengler Cup, and at Christmas time, it was snowy right in the mountains of Davos. What an experience. And I am beyond thankful that I was able to put on the Canadian jersey for that event. And
that's cool.
I got to play against, Garrett Stafford, and he was playing for Geneva at the time, another
I remember him.
friend. And, yep. So some good competition there, and unfortunately we didn't win, but what an experience.
That's awesome, man. So I didn't tell you about this, but you were always good at rapid fire, man. So I'm just getting my my timer ready here for you. So we're doing a little on these podcasts I'm doing with this with the sin bin. we came up with a thing, 2 minutes in the sin bin. And that's a phrase that I still use, man. Like he's a free man. When I call a hockey game, I still use that, man. So this is a perfect fit for me. So you cool with a little bit of that?
Absolutely. I might not be very good, but absolutely.
All right. Well, it's you're gonna have to think about some, but some you'll know right away. So I've got about 20 questions. We don't have to get through them all. I'll start the timer for 2 minutes and we'll rock and roll. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 2 minutes in the sin bin with Darren Haydar, a place he didn't visit very often. Your first car?
Honda Accord. Volkswagen Golf.
Okay. The best coach in any sport of all time?
Bill Belichick.
Favorite type of music?
Rock.
Nice. Pre-game ritual?
Coffee.
Timmy's, man. Timmy's. Pet peeve?
Oof. I'm pretty easy going.
Something's got to piss you off.
You know what it was? The music too loud in the locker room. I'm a peaceful guy. I do like music, but I'm not driven by it. That's for sure.
Understood. Your favorite arena you've ever played in. I know that's a hard one, so you might have to think on that one.
Spangler Cup, Davos, I'd say that environment. But if I want to say North America, I would say playing in Montreal was such an experience.
Awesome. Let's see. Your most memorable game, another one that's probably real tough.
Oh, there's a lot of those. Most memorable game. Wow, where do you even go with that one?
Yeah, it's tough.
Obviously, my first NHL goal.
Yep.
I would say my first pro game though was. I'm smaller. I never thought that, even as it was happening, I never thought pro hockey was really going to come to be for me. Even being a late round pick by Nashville, you can't count your chickens. Even when I got sent down that year, I was told I was going to end up in Toledo. So for me, playing in my first pro game in Milwaukee was very memorable.
That is awesome. Last question for you. Best player you played against, another tough one.
Oof. I would have to say Datsuk. He just seemed to be everywhere.
Good answer.
Yeah, I would probably have to say that. In the minors, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of guys hard to play against.
Yeah.
When I was younger, Mike Weaver playing for the Wolves, and I was in Milwaukee, he just seemed to be always, when I say lining me up for hits, he was just such a great skater and positional.
I got to know him in college, and when I worked in Lansing before I got into play-by-play, and he was a hell of a good guy, and small, undersized guy, but man, can he frickin' play?
Those are the guys that I always found the most difficult to play against. The guys who are 5'11" to 6'1" that can skate, that take away time and space. Yeah, so what? A 6'5" guy is going to hit me once a year. It's easier to get around them. Easier to get around them than it is someone who's matched or faster than you are.
Yeah, well, as you know, Weaves was built like a fire hydrant, though, man.
Oh, he got me once.
Yeah, he had a good run there, man, when he got with the Canadians. It was fun to watch him, man. So, Darren, I could talk to you for an hour, man. I appreciate your time very much. Truly mean that, and I'm really glad to see you're doing well, and maybe we'll talk in another 10 years.
Absolutely. Hopefully not that long. I'd love to get back into the game and, coaching, scouting, whatever it would be. But, maybe that happens one day. I don't want to leave, options off the table or take them off the table, but I'm coaching Bantam. I'm doing my youth development. So maybe one day, you never know. Yeah.
Is staying in Canada, that's what you want to do, or would you go for the right opportunity if you could get into development or something like that?
For the right opportunity, absolutely. I love the game of hockey. I like I said, I'm working with some older guys. I take a lot of pride working with those older guys. I feel like I got some things to offer. And I do like working with the younger kids. It's more babysitting, but it's at the same time, it's just a different pace and it's a lot of fun. But providing and knowledge or experience to those 15 to 18 kids, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, again, Darren, thanks. Great seeing you. Best to you and your wife, Sarah, and your three boys. You got a line there. You going to go for a decor, or are you guys stopping with a forward line?
Oh, I'm all done. The team is set. The first line is set. The first line is set.
Nice. All right, man. We'll let you know when this thing's posted. I think they're going to put it up Monday, and we'll of course tag in it. And I know a lot of people watch it. You got great insight, great perspective. You're one of the best dudes I've ever met, Darren. Thanks for doing this, man. Thanks,
Bay. I appreciate it.
You bet, man. Darren Haydar here on the Sin Bin on this episode of No Holden Back. Until next time, we'll see you again with an all-new edition.
You've been listening to the No Holden Back Podcast. For the latest news around minor league hockey, download the Sin Bin app, now available in the Google Play and Apple app stores.